But I think it is very valuable to try and catalog the major kind of buckets of ways in which people are using the platform, because once you know who those users are, the same way if you think about your users on the other end, right? Your job is to know who they are, know what their needs and motivations are, and then build the products that drive those motivations and help deliver value to them. And you got to do the same thing with your kind of development partners. So it's very important to know who those are and do your own analysis of it. There's no real secret to it, I think. It's just talking to people, being in the community, learning from them, but then thinking kind of a structured way of who they are. And then actually we used to sit there and list out like motivations and needs. Like, what do these guys want out of it? So the analytics guys just want more data. They want more metadata around each tweet. They want more structure, and they want more volume of stuff. Say it again?
They're under the hood.
Yeah, they're under the hood. They just want lower level access because they're going to do a bunch of work to then produce a user experience. Whereas if you are New York Times, you want to like just be able to say like, ooh, that's a good tweet that I want to put in my story, and I want to render that in my story without having to do much work. So then we built products for them that solve that need as well. So I think it's the same thing as you think about your customers. They're just another side of it. The book I recommend for anyone thinking about this is one called Invisible Engines. It's an MIT ebook. It's the best articulation I've ever heard of platforms and software platforms. And it really talks about them as two-sided businesses, and the job is to connect these two sides of a business. You're the platform, and they go into there's software platforms that we all know, from Microsoft back in the day to gaming platforms like Xbox, Twitter, Facebook, iOS, Android, all this stuff, right? But there's also other two-sided businesses. There are nightclubs, right? The job of at least a straight nightclub is to get guys to meet girls, and well, the girls aren't going to come, so why don't we lower the rate for them to get in, because that lures more girls in, that brings in more guys. And they talk about kind of the dynamics and economics of how platforms work, and you need to think through what your platform is. And you can see these different models. So the other strategy was like on the Xbox side, they knew that content was going to be king, right? So they licensed and owned Halo and was only available on Xbox because they knew that that would draw on users. And so you have to think about different strategies sometimes around how do you create this like this equilibrium in the two-sided business, and what are the right strategies for trying to make sure those two sides of the business kind of build up equally. Uber was another interesting one. It's a two-sided business, drivers and riders. And they knew that as a rider, if you open up the app the first time and there's no cars there, you're going to like uninstall it or you'll never open it again. So they took their entire first year and they paid drivers out of their pocket to be sitting around there, driving around on empty cars, and they're taking a huge loss on it. So that as those first users came online, there was a car there, waiting for them 5 minutes from anywhere they were, or 10 minutes at the time maybe. And so it was a huge cost burden to them, but they knew that that was the right way to get the flywheel going. And so now once enough users showed up, they could stop paying these guys ahead of time, and then they just insert them into the system as, the rider pays the driver, they take their cut, and now the thing is off and running. But I think it's really important to kind of know your platform, know the dynamics of it, and figure out the right way to make sure that those two sides kind of efficiently meet each other. And you're seeing this a lot more in marketplaces now. So if you think back to what I call marketplaces 1.0 is like eBay, Craigslist, right? Their job is like create a website and people just show up on both sides. They don't get into the transaction at all. And that can mean you get a bad experience, that can mean you get ripped off, that can mean the goods aren't of the same quality you thought, or the money, you send money, you never get anything back, whatever. Now you're seeing this like 2.0 marketplaces, which look at like Uber, TaskRabbit, HomeJoy, kind of Postmates, where they're like moving a little further up the stack. So they're going to train the people on one side. They're going to kind of guarantee a certain level of service. They'll take the actual credit card and transaction for you. And so they get more value out of it. They actually capture more of the money in that process, but they guarantee a better result. It just takes a lot more work to try. Uber now has to try and manage the drivers and train them and deal with them being gripey, whereas theoretically Uber could be a Craigslist thing, right? Like it could be someone, kind of used to work in ride sharing. Someone goes onto the website and says, hey, I need a ride from Palo Alto to the city on Friday, and someone would say, okay, I can go drive there for you, but it's super inefficient, right? And so the more of the platform you can kind of build up and support, it makes that connection a lot more efficient.